Okay, well, welcome to the first painting stream. I've never actually streamed myself painting something like this before, so glad that you're here. Let's see. I am working on getting set up on my computer real quick. You can see there I've already started this one, and I'm not super far into it, so hoping that that will go smoothly as I work on things. Okay. So, let's see. Whoops. And I've got this where I need it, and this where I need it. Alright, I left off working on the guy's suit the other day, so I'm going to kind of pick back up there. And then let's see. Welcome to Chance E. Chio. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger so it's easier to read at a distance. I can, good. You'll be able to see the chat. I'm a little ways up. I'm just sharing the chat in one more place, or not the chat, the stream in one more place, and then I will be... Why is ChatGPT open? Don't need that. Okay. Come on. Alright, time to get brush in hand. So I have never met this couple personally. I got reviewed, or not reviewed, referred, two totally different words, to for this piece. And so I've been working at off and on it. Got a little bag that hangs here from my painting drawer. I've got a handful of colors. I wonder if I can do this without messing everything up. Let's see if I can give you a quick little peek at the paints. No, it's not going to zoom in properly. You probably heard some stuff crashing just now. Well, we'll just focus on the painting, I think. Had a couple brushes and things fall off. Alright, it still works. So, I've got some white and a skin color I put together last night. I've got some Winsor & Newton Ultramarine Blue. This stuff dries awfully fast for oil painting. For oil paints, I should say. I always find it so weird how dry that, how quickly it dries. So I try to just use little bits of it at a time. With a lot of my paint, I just try to put a glob of it down. And a lot of the time that works. But in this case, it doesn't work quite so well. Let's see, can we move that down just a little further, get a little bit better lighting on that? And I can't see my actual reference. There we go. Okay. Accidentally covered up my own reference. Right. So this guy's suit, I don't typically use a whole lot of phthalo green in my painting, but this guy's suit is like a almost phthalo green suit. Okay. And it's a little bit more vibrant than that. One of these days I'd like to get a second camera, almost like a little icon in the corner showing the mixing of the paint. Because I think that's not something people get to see a whole lot of, is the paint mixing. And then it does get just a little, that's not super dark. So you see I've got quite a bit of dark down in this region kind of right here. And so I need to get it a little lighter without ruining my value structure. There's a lot of kind of a blue, about a game back and forth between blue and green with this suit. Like it looks green just to look at it, but when you are painting something like this, you're mixing kind of blues and greens together constantly to get the slight changes in that suit. Alright, so there, I'm actually going to pull the brush a little bit more like that. It creates a very subtle, I wonder if I could, I'm not sure how far to zoom in on this painting. It looks like that's about as far in as I can zoom in on that painting with this lens. Alright. So that is slightly lighter there, but it's not quite as yellow on the edge as I've got it presently. So we're going to take just a little bit of white and see if we can lighten that up. The only reason I'm not showing the reference photo is I don't necessarily have permission from the photographer to show the actual photo I'm working from. Permission to stream the painting, I can do that, and honestly the photographer is my sister, so she's like, yeah, if you want to stream, go ahead. I don't think she'd probably have issues if I showed the photo as well, but I at least want to talk to her and get an okay before I just assume that she's okay with something like that. You know, professional courtesy. Alright. think the camera should have any kind of autofocus on at the moment, but if you see it kind of focusing on my hand and then on kind of constantly changing focus, please say something, because I would much rather it just be focused on, I think autofocus is on, focused on the painting rather than my hand. Trying to get just a little bit of shadow in there. Alright, now let's try and close up that little space right there. Paper towels, tool of the trade. Squeeze paint out of the brush. I don't use a whole lot of cleaners and thinners. I usually just squeeze the paint out and keep going. And there's that blue drying out again already. I don't know what it is with this one. Like, it doesn't say it's a quick drying or anything on the container. It just dries fast. In this case, it's not the glob that's drying. It's a color that I mixed with some of that in there that's drying out. Slide value shift up here, and a very slight value shift back the other way down into here. Do I have a slightly bigger brush? This thing is not holding a whole lot of paint. When you can't pick up enough paint on your brush, it just makes it take so much longer. It's very easy to be just, oh, I'm using this brush, oh, I'm using this brush, and forget to think, maybe I should change brush. Very, very subtle value shift right on the edge right there. Now his sleeve, this is kind of an interesting area because it looks dark here and there is a shadow there, but the back of his sleeve probably is not as dark as I have it there. But it can be really hard to lighten up the values, so I'm going to try just a slight dry brushing, see if I can just put a very gentle amount of paint over that rather than having it adhere perfectly. There, I think that helps already. Now we need just a little bit more variation in some of those slightly lighter areas. So I'm going to get a little white, mix it in with that jacket color, that suit color. Turn the brush slightly on the side. It's very slight. it's enough. Oil painting is really all these little slight shifts here and slight shifts there, and when you get enough of them put together, it looks like a painting. But you got to be able to control all those slight little changes. All right. Now, that is a pretty solid value right there. So let's get some of that green. See if we can straighten out the edge of that suit collar. And you'll see sometimes I'll make a mark and then I'll rotate the brush. It's because, you probably can't see it, but the brush picks up paint, because oil paint doesn't dry immediately. And so when you put color or paint down, it'll actually pick up some of what's on there, and so you turn the brush if you don't want to put that paint back on the canvas after taking it off. Let's see. Very slight kind of in here. That's a little too slight. I think it needs to get just a little louder than that. That okay, please be light enough. Well, lighter, not light enough. Oh, welcome to Paint Mountain WH40K. Glad to see you. I am doing weddings painting stuff today. So let's see. Ultimately, it's the same techniques I use when I'm painting small models and things like that, but it's fun to apply it in different places. There you go. Now it's lightening up. Got to be careful when mixing white into things, because it really can make the colors cool down really quick. Well, I'm glad you joined really quick. Glad to see you. All right. I guess I haven't been really showing much of my painting anything lately in the server. I should consider showing more of what I've been working on. I have been working on painting things, just not game miniatures. For whatever reason, some small story time, I guess. I was working on a model. In fact, I think I even have it sitting on my desk over here. Let me see if I can zoom on this just a smidgen. Okay, yep, that's going to require a complete refocus. 1 second. Model, are you going to work with me? It's dark, but I was working on this model, and I'd worked on dozens of models before, and all of a sudden my head started hurting just really bad, and I was like, what is going on? And it just kept hurting. Before I knew it, I had like a full-on migraine. And every time that I have tried to paint a model since my eyes start hurting. Like even right now working on this painting, my eyes, while they're not hurting, are ringing ever so slightly. And I don't know what it is. Maybe I should put my glasses on. I got some nearsighted glasses that I always forget to use. This probably is the right kind of time for something like that. And I went too dark. Try not to complain about this guy's suit, but it is been a bit of a experience. Yeah, I think you're right. Focusing on something that's small is probably not good for me. It's sad going from like something that you enjoy doing as a pastime, and then boom, it's just kind of like gone from your life. One day you can do it, the next you can't, and it's just, why? Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words. Let's see. Alright, cleaning my glasses real quick. It does help a bit with the eyeballs and the slight ringing. Alright, there's that. Alright, let's see. Now, this guy's stuff gets slightly darker in here. One of the hard parts with painting as well is you tend to have to push things a little further than they might be in real life. So dark sometimes have to get a little darker. Light sometimes have to get a little lighter. Not all the time, but sometimes. Also part of it depends on what style you work in. I'm more of an impressionistic painter than a photorealistic painter. Alright, I'm going to work a little bit further down that leg. Scrape that paint up before it dries, makes it back into itself. Get just a smidgen of black and throw that in there. And grab. Okay. Yeah, working on something like this is a lot easier for my eyes at the moment because I can stand further back. I think that's part of it with the models is there's so little that you're often kind of like working like this on the models. But this I can like, I'm a full arm's length back standing, like my arm's almost fully extended when I'm working on something like this. The only time I get close is when I've got like tiny details to do. Alright, there's the rest of that pant leg. I think I want to get just a little bit more blue in that and darken it up in a couple places. We'll just go make straight blue into that pant color and just try to darken it back to that. One of the things I try to do with paintings like this, so this couple actually had, the arch was not this close. It was actually quite a ways further back, and when I saw and then there was like all these tables lined on the side, lined up on the side, and then the arch was like all the way in the back. It's like we don't need any of those tables for the painting version of this, so I chucked all the tables, even though they were in the reference photo, and then I moved the arch closer because I thought that would work better for focusing on the couple directly. You know, it's their special day. They should be the focus. Anything that doesn't need to be in the painting should not be there. All right, let's see. I kind of want to work on the foliage now. Like I know I still need to finish his face, but like I've got all these plants around them, and plants and flowers are just a ton of fun. So I'm going to zoom out on my reference photo so that I can see it a bit better and start working on some of the plants. Okay. Let's see, I need just some yellow. Mix that in right there. We'll keep some of that color that we've been using for his suit. I like to unify things however I can, so this guy's suit is more or less a green already. So I can just use some of that same suit color, we'll call it, and mix that in, and then start using that in the foliage. But because it's got little bits of that same color in there, it will help tie everything together. So we got that arch coming down right here. So I don't want a straight line like that because it creates a kind of a weird effect. So I'm going to cross like this to also help make it look like this foliage here is in front. And I do have some pencil markings on here, so let's go ahead and kind of draw with the paint inside of those markings. Sometimes the first thing you got to do is just start covering up things where you drew them out, so that you can start adding more lights and darks. I try to add them as I go, but you'll always miss something adding it as you go. So it gets you a lot of the way there. Let's get one of those little kind of dark spots right back here. Darker. I apologize if the lighting's not good. I'm still trying to figure out my lighting setup in here. Let's scrape that up before it dries out, because that blue just keeps trying to dry everything out. One of the things I can do is mix some more white and yellow in there, because those are not fast drying colors. There's a lot of white flowers in this as well. So probably what I will do is I'll cover it all up with kind of greens and blues, and then paint in the white flowers, because that way the greens and blues will push up through the painting with the white flowers, so you'll get little bursts of blue and green, even though there's all these white flowers. Alright, this brush is now too small. Bigger. We're going to bump up from a size 3 to a size 8. And we're going to mix a higher amount of that paint, because that's simply too little. And I'll probably need to squirt out a fresh tube of white here in a bit as well. Not a fresh tube, but a fresh blob. Okay. Now, for those who haven't seen too much of my painting, you'll notice I'm not exactly a photorealistic painter. Like, I'm still going for realistic proportions, but I'm more, so if you're not familiar with impressionist type painting, it's more an impression. You're trying to have enough information that people can tell what it is they're looking at without wondering. They need to be able to tell what it is on sight. But then I'll have bursts of colors that may not actually be there, or more or less refined brush strokes and things like that. Let's see, comment. You were saying about mini painting and how it's left your life. Same thing happened for me. I got obsessed with boxing in the gym and I forgot about painting minis. You know, and that happens sometimes. And it's really hard to let those things go sometimes, but sometimes it's necessary and things just exit your life so that other things can come in. I think about it sometimes, like even though I love mini painting and I've got boxes of, well, feels like, not, I do have boxes of models, but the models, you know, they're not very big. And then I've got little things like this laying around. This is a bunch of Space Marine heads that I just have sitting there. But yeah, and the model painting, it does add up over time. And so but as far as personal goals go, as much as I love painting models, my goal was to refine my oil painting skills, and so I didn't have the time for both, so I had to make a choice. Do I keep painting models? Does that align with my goals, or do I let it go so I can get my oil painting where it wanted to be? Then things went crazy with work, and that technically didn't happen either. But my work situation has changed now, and so I'm right back to oil painting because that's what I really want to focus on right now and get good at, is refining my painting skills. There's a lot of things that I can do that I like, but then there's other things, like I really want to get better at painting portraits, faces. Have always been a bit of a struggle for me, and so like doing these kinds of things where I have faces is really helpful for moving that towards where I want to be in terms of my own goals. I wonder if I can move the painting closer to show some of this in, let me see. Let's see if this works or if this gets blurry. You can kind of see it. Like, these are not fully mixed strokes. I actually don't perfectly mix my colors. I like to leave bits and pieces of the colors that I use to mix it, because I think it adds a lot to the painting to see. Like from back here it might look like green, but then you get up close, it's like, oh, it's actually still a lot of yellow and blue in there to make it look like green. You should paint a portrait of John. We'll see. I'm not opposed to the idea. You haven't mentioned John in a while. I actually came across my picture that I made of that for you the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, what else could I do with this? I should try throwing it into, actually, you know what? I think I should try doing a comic book type illustration of that character and see how that comes out. Now, I'm not really a palette knife painter. I know, like, a lot of people might lather some paint on in very specific ways with the palette knife here, but I prefer to do each stroke with the brush. Alright, this paint is starting to lose a little bit of its vibrancy. Let's mix some fresh bursts of some other colors into it. A little bit of that yellow. I think I'll hold off on adding any kind of reddish color to it just yet. plant over here. Whoops. This thing doesn't fit the easel perfectly, so if I push too hard in one place, the whole canvas just kind of shifts. So every now and then I got to put my hand behind it or something, finger on top, to try to hold it in place so it doesn't bounce around while I'm painting. I shall have that still have that saved in my camera roll. Honestly, I was really pleased with how that thing turned out. Okay. You'll notice I turn my hand different angles because I am very intentional about the direction of each stroke. All right. It needs probably a little bit more lights, but I need to finish getting that kind of darker region in first. When you're oil painting, you typically work from dark to light. Some of that, some of that. So I tend to work and then I'll let a little bit dry and then add a little bit more. It's been so long since I've done oil painting, and now I'm actually going to try to do some professionally if I can. That I'm going to have to learn to work on multiple paintings at a time, I think. My lord, bacon is so difficult to... Oh, bacon is so difficult to cook sometimes. Yeah, it's like, it's a process to get bacon cooked exactly the way you want it sometimes. It's either too crunchy or too soft, and going for that just right can be so hard. Especially when, like, I mean, it's one thing if you're cooking bacon for yourself, but then you get the kids involved and stuff, and it's like, I like my bacon this way. I like it more crunchy. I like it softer. It's like, I'm going to make the bacon the way I like it, and you guys can all just kind of deal with it, is usually the approach I end up going with. There's a nice darkish glob. Okay, come on, cover that the rest of the way. And there it went sliding again. I got to be careful not to let it just push too far back, because it can actually fall forward if I push too hard. Alright, well, there is the front part of the foliage. And it's not done, but it's at least covered. Just need it cooked so I don't get sick. Well, that's not too bad if you're just need it cooked. Just go till it's got some crunch on it, and you pull the bacon out, it'll start stiffening a bit. That was one of the things that took me a bit to learn, is like, you don't have to cook it until it's perfectly crunchy, because when you pull it out, it will stiffen a bit. And so you kind of got to figure out a balance between how stiff it is in the pan versus how stiff it's going to be once it gets pulled out. So I actually am going to darken things even further now to do the foliage in the background, which is actually darker than the foliage in the foreground. That's simply because it's further away, so a lot of the shadows are going to stand out more since it's further away. The lights and the shadows tend to start blending together a little bit the further it is away from you when you see it. I think we can go a little darker even still in some of these spots. I want it to go dark enough that it's not going to blend together when people look at it. Those blue spots are also really dark. You know what? Black, blue. That should really start push that. Bacon has good protein. I need the protein with the egg I'm making, so I got it. That makes sense. Every now and then, I'll cook a meal with some specific nutrition in mind, but don't always think to do so. Sorry about that. That was an alarm. Was that the go get the kids alarm? Kids went back to school today. My wife is getting them from school today. But I keep it on, the alarm on, just in case I need to go get them. Alright. Man, now you got me thinking about bacon. Might have to go see if we have any in the fridge after this. Let's keep pushing that. Now it's going to look funky at this point because it's so dark. And there are flowers on the foliage back there as well. But it's just the kind of under part of the foliage. So the shadows, putting the shadows in first, and then adding the brighter parts on second. I did a little bit different that way, but this one I'm definitely going to kind of take the more traditional dark to light approach. Come on, don't fight me, paint. Okay. Now this kind of climbs up over the arch, and I think I can lighten up a little bit on that one since we're not quite so far down behind the other foliage. And I do have some marks over here, so let's get that. Some of those are supposed to be flowers, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything to add a little bit of green in those. Because you know the stems are ultimately green. At least in this case they are. We only buy turkey bacon, unfortunately. It's not like a good source of protein, but it's better than plant-based. You know, I've had turkey bacon. It's not horrible. My mom liked to buy turkey bacon. I definitely prefer the real stuff. The pork stuff. But, you know, it's not bad, especially if it's cooked to a nice crispiness still. Some protein's definitely better than no protein, especially if you're about to do your pre-workout or get ready for that. Do people in your family do a lot of plant-based stuff? I don't have any vegetarians or vegans in my family that I know of. Definitely not in my immediate family. Don't know about extended. I think the kids would have a, throw a conniption fit if I was like, we're eating plant meat today. The kids are definitely carnivores. Pre-workout is a few vitamins with 215 caffeine grams, comes in a powder. Got it. Right. You can see, actually I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of that background from the sky starting to blend in right there, because this is absolutely still wet. I put that on yesterday. It's probably not the slightest bit dry today. The white does not dry quickly, and white mixed with other colors will slow down the drying of those colors as well. So some of that blue is in there, but there's so much of that white that it's not. It's even making it so that blue can't dry easily. That's not bad though. I kind of like the little effect it creates in there. And I need a fresh paper towel. Okay. You know what? I'm not sure if my glasses are helping or not at the moment. They're helping for looking at the painting, but every time I gotta read the chat, my eyes are like, ouch, ouch. So I'm just gonna take them off so I can see both. No, we don't eat plant-based stuff, but I was just saying that there is worse than turkey. Yeah, yep, you're right. There definitely is worse. That's more or less brown in some of those spots now. That's all right. Brown is a natural plant color. It will work. However, all the blue on my canvas or on my palette is pretty much dry now, so it's time to squeeze out another fresh glob of that stuff. Just a little one. That was bigger than I wanted. Oh well. Can't exactly shove it back in the tube very easy, so we'll roll with it. At least I'm not going to run out. I never even considered the possibility of being a wedding painter. My sister, who was a wedding photographer, just kind of reached out to me one day and was like, hey, would you be interested in giving this a shot? Being between jobs and loving to paint, I was like, actually at first I said no, because I don't like giving up control over what I'm painting or my artwork. But in this case, I had the thought, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do as a professional artist. Maybe this is my path. Painting and illustration are very different. Not in terms of... They're different in how I process them emotionally. So, painting, I like working from photos, I like working from still lifes. Illustration, I tend to prefer just working straight from my imagination. I'll still use photo references, but I'll paint things that are less likely to exist in real life. Draw things. Paint things that are more grounded in real life. tend to draw things that aren't. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to be painting stuff that's grounded in real life anyways, it's not like this is asking me to give up control of my illustrative freedom for my illustrations. It's well within the lines of how I like to paint. And so after thinking about it for a bit, I was just like, yeah, let's give it a shot, see how it goes. So I've been working on just getting some of these paintings done over the last few days. Or the first one, this is actually my second one in. This was the first one that I did. I think it turned out pretty decent. There's some things I don't like about it, but for not having painted anything in over a year, I think it's a pretty good first getting back to it. But it was also really dark. It's like, well, a lot of wedding photos are in brighter places, and so I was like, for my next one, I'm going to go with something significantly brighter. And so that's why this one is like outside in the sunlight. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, that one took me a few days to get done. This one will probably take me 2 or 3 days because the paint goes on just a little bit at a time. Foliage is so much fun. Like trying to make it look like a plant without making it look like a plant. Impressionist has a level of abstractness to it. I don't like full abstract art when you like look at it and you can't tell what it is at all. So let me pull this one back up. Like you can tell what everything is in this. Like this guy's got a drink in his hand, you can tell it's a hand. You can tell she's holding one as well. He's got this kind of, what is it, a corsage right there? It's got a bow tie. You can make everything out, and you can see more of it in here, maybe. Turn it right like that. So a lot of it's just globs of paint smeared and kind of just where I need them to be in order to create an effect of something you recognize, whereas more like straight up abstract art is about not being able to recognize it and more interpreting things for yourself. Let's see. I think the main reason, this is from the comments, I think the main reason I quit painting in general and replaced it with sports was because my ego got crushed and I decided to become physically better. I can appreciate that. I can. I went to college thinking I was a pretty decent artist when I arrived, and by the end of the first year I felt like my art is crap. One of my sisters is learning to oil paint right now, and she's actually picking it up so much faster than I did, and that's been interesting to watch as well. It's like, man, all that work that I put into it, and she just seems to be picking it up. This isn't the wedding photographer one, a different one. But, we don't all learn things at the same speed. In fact, for me, I tend to have to beat my head against anything that I learn. Which, it's not bad. It's not pleasant, but it's not bad. It just means I'm going to remember things more efficiently long term, because I have to beat my head at things for such a long time before I start really developing proficiency at anything. When I finally get it, it tends to stick in my head very, very, very well. And so if you ever do feel like you got your ego crushed, just ask yourself, is this about them or is this about what I want? And in this case, I think your decision to focus on becoming physically better is a great one, because that's something that, your body is unique to you. So So you're focusing on a journey that is very, very personal and very unique to you. For me, that's painting. It feels like a very personal journey, but it learned, how do I say this? When we're dealing with learned skills, it can be absolutely depressing when you see someone growing faster than you, especially if that person's younger than you are. But I feel like we also don't necessarily know how much time these people are spending on these skills. Like someone could be younger than me, but if I'm spending 10 hours a week painting and they're spending 20 hours a week painting, it makes sense that they're going to get better than me faster. So I try not to focus on the comparison. Just be like, here's where I am with my own journey. This is the result of the skill that I have put into it, and I'm going to continue to move at my pace, and I will get where I want to be in my own time. Come on, you don't pick up the paint, put it down. There we go. If you don't have enough paint on the paintbrush, and there's more paint on the canvas than there is on the paintbrush, sometimes you'll go to brush or put a stroke down and you'll actually end up having the opposite effect where the canvas is painting the brush instead of the brush painting the canvas. So got to make sure you got enough paint on your brush when oil painting. Alright, let's see, let's get a little bit more of that. Get some white, some yellow, a little bit more of that suit color. Come on, you don't fight with me. And just a little bit of blue. I'm going to try to close in this space back here a little more. Okay. And then need a bit more foliage up there. Yeah, it can be really hard when your ego gets crushed. Perhaps the best thing to do then is just to retrain your ego. I'm not saying that to anyone specifically, just speaking hypothetically, I guess. Metaphysically, something like that. The less you let your ego get in the way, the faster. Maybe it's more accurate to say the less I have let mine get in the way, the faster I have picked stuff up. Because you learn to be okay with what you don't know, and you learn to not care about what other people know. Alright. Trying to decide how crazy I want to get with the foliage. Because while foliage is fun and all, if I get too crazy with it, it can start pulling focus away from the couple. It's kind of like when you're looking at a photograph and like the part that's in focus is blurred out. So the part that isn't in focus is blurred out, and the only thing that's clear is the part that is in focus. Same basic concept here. I've got to be a lot more intentional with kind of my blurred out sections, you could say, blurred out in this case can be a little bit muddier paint placement. This might also be where I leverage that paint that doesn't dry a little bit on the background, because you see right here, even though I just put some that down, it started blending immediately with that color around it, and that makes it feel like it's less up front. Makes it feel like it's more in the back. All right, getting there. Getting there. There's a lot more yellow in that spot than I intended. I'll just hit kind of right there, a little bit more of a light effect. Maybe take just a little bit of almost straight blue. Create a slight shadow effect kind of in there, like that. You really need something else right there. I know that's dark, but I think long term that'll probably be good, because the bride is going to be a lot brighter than the foliage on that arch. And so if this arch is a little on the dark side, it's going to make her pop out more when I finally get to doing the detail, anything on her, I should say, at this point, since there's not even a single speck of paint on her yet. I like to save the bride for last, because it's when I have I like to save the bride for last, or if I'm doing any picture with someone in a pretty dress, I tend to save that for last, because the dresses are the most fun, and then I can kind of take my time with it and just enjoy it. Painting things that are flowy, like that dress, that's a lot of fun for me, because I can be very expressive with the brush strokes. All right. I think I might switch back to that other brush here in a second, because these spots are getting a little tight. It's going to get harder to get the paint down the way I want. There's some of that green that had that blue mixed in it. It's already partially dried there. That's going down very, very sticky. Alright, let's go ahead and switch back to that other brush for now. Let's scrape that up. Smear it back out fresh. I don't like adding this to it, but I'm going to go ahead and do just a little. Got a little bit of mineral oil here. I tend not to use it as a thinner. I don't typically like using thinners, but I'm going to use a little bit of it right now. I tend to keep my paints as thick as possible. Come on, you. Get off the brush. And those are really close in terms of color. You can see like that suit is almost blending in to that shape because they're so close. So gonna have to make a decision. I'll probably leave his suit on the darker side, and then add a little bit of darkness to his suit. But the plan is to go add some lights onto that foliage here in a bit, and that'll start pulling that back out, creating that separation. Here I'm going to take that glob off, because that's pretty much just pulled up a glob of dry, like straight dry paint. Small amount of black into this, darken it up, make a little bit more of that brownish color again. Come on, you know what, just blend, I don't care. Alright, that covers that up. I think that actually does need to go a little bit further back, right here. Alright, progress. I just need to fill out kind of this space in here, and that should take care of most of the groundwork for the foliage. Come on, you. Don't fight. Don't fight. Alright. Oh, there's a little bit more over here. Mix these in. Get a little bit more yellow on that. Keep going. It's going to be a flower up there, so we just need a little bit. Turn the brush sideways just a little bit. Kind of use it like a knife edge almost. Alright, that takes care of the bulk of the foliage. You need a little bit more right here because this arch is coming down, and then right there it's almost like it's bending out that way. It wouldn't do that. The construction would come straight down like this. And so that needs to be corrected, otherwise it's going to stand out very interestingly on that final painting. Make a little bit more of that brownish color. Get a little bit more of that suit color in there. Alright, that's going to come down like so. Get a little bit more of that shadow color. Come on, paint. Black and blue, black and blue. Alright, that feels more natural in terms of the shape of that. On this side, I think it's a little thin. So I'm going to add just a little bit of thickness under here to make the arch feel more consistent. Too much of the wrong colors, some more canvas painted the brush. There, that feels better. All right. Time to start getting in with some of the lights on there and lightening things up in places. At the moment, it feels like he's got foliage growing right out of his back, which I don't think will be super appreciated in the final painting. So we need to start breaking that up. Let's see. I'll take a quick picture of where this is at, because I like to document. I probably should have taken a couple pictures, but yeah, I guess I've got the video going as well. Let's see. All right. Start adding some lights where the sun would be hitting this foliage. So honestly, I'm not entirely sure what direction these shadows are going based on the source image, but I definitely can make foliage lit up around him. There's a couple places I'll probably end up using straight yellow. A little bit more of that suit color, and then just into the suit color mix white and yellow, because it's already more or less a green. No, I can go brighter than that. There we go. Okay. There we go, that's starting to come out more. And there, now he doesn't look like he's got shrubs growing out of his back. Put the yellow straight into the white. And then just a very small amount of that. These are going to be brighter. because they're closer to us. All right, progress. Oops. Gotta be careful when the paint's wet, because otherwise there will be a lot of canvas painting the brush. All right. I think we definitely need a bit more shadow shapes kind of down here. Get some more of that light color. I'm going to take a step back so I can see how this is looking from a distance. Still a bit of a journey to go to get this from looking like you can't tell if this is going to be flowers or a thorny plant. And so that's something I'm going to have to work through, is to make it look more consistent with the type of plant that it's going to be. But I can take my time with that. Alright, I need to clean up this. I've got a whole glob of half-dried paint that I think just it's time for it to go. Like I scrape it off and it's not even losing hardly any of its shape because it's so dried up now. You might be able to hear some of that crunch sound coming off the palette. That's the dried paint literally scraping off because it's gotten a little too hard. Yeah, I don't know why that ultramarine blue dries so fast, but it does. I don't think I've ever had one dry that fast. I was just trying a new one. It's like, oh, this one's on sale. It's got a decent price, which were true. And then it's just like, yeah, I'll never be wet again. As soon as I hit air, I'm done. You'd almost think it was an acrylic paint with how fast that it dries. All right. That is not too dark, not too bright. That's about what I was hoping for. Okay. It's going to be kind of an intermediary, not quite direct light, but not quite in the shadows type green. But it'll help shape the rest of this foliage. definitely look a lot dark or brighter over here in the dark sections. There, okay. This, maybe more like that. Just a lot of interplay between light and shadow. This is where it starts to feel a lot like painting some of those Warhammer 40K models. Trying to balance those. I will be right back. Alright, I'm back. Toddler wanted a hug. Alright. Go for some of that really bright one now. Now we've got this intermediary color. There we go. That's starting to fill more the kind of plants that I wanted to. I want to do there. There's this bright spot right here. It's kind of like cutting these shapes into two distinct ones, like a shape here and a shape there. So I can either cut it again or I can add some shadows in. I think I'm going to try pushing the bright a little further. Don't think that pushed it as far as I wanted. Yeah, I think I'm gonna need some fresh white paint here in a bit. fix that with the palette knife. There we go. Let's see. Okay, it's not done, but I'm going to work on this side for a little bit because it's starting to feel very, well, more lit up on that side. And we still have more lighting that needs to be done. All right. Even though this is a bit more subdued, the top up here would have more lighting on it than the rest. All right. These got blended together a little too much. So let's start to see if we can pull out some of those foreground plants again. Now, part of the challenge here is if the sunlight's coming from this direction, these plants would technically still be trying to be lit from that side as well. Now, I think the sun is probably actually more like this, if this were a 3D space, kind of hitting from this angle, something like that. So we can actually work with quite a bit, even though it's kind of lighting up like that, but because if the sun's coming in from this way, it would be hitting both of those. I think it's a little bit more overhead than that, but I think it'll be fine. Painted the brush again. Canvas painted the brush. Doesn't happen too often, but when it does, it can be really obnoxious. See, I'm rotating the brush because I'm trying to get the spots where the paint hasn't mixed as much. When you rotate it, it picks up differently on each side. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but differently. So trying to use that to my advantage. Alright, I think I need a little bit more shadows. Come on, you accept the paint. There we go. Mix it just a little black. That ought to help it stick. The black's a stickier paint than the blue is, at least till the blue starts drying. I'll need a lot more of these kinds of marks over here as well. Guess I don't have to go too crazy around the edge of the dress since that's not in yet. Let's see. Go ahead and add a few of these and over here as well. That was a really dark spot. Okay, just a couple more shadowy places, and then I think I'm gonna probably be done streaming for now. All right, now I gotta do at least one more. Okay, right here. That spot's just asking for a shadow. All right. Well, that will be it for now. That's where I'm at. Thank you very much for hanging out with me for a bit. I enjoyed chatting, and hope everyone has a wonderful day.